Okay, it's time to start. We have a great audience here on site, and of course they're online, of course. My name is Reijo Kupiainen, and presenting at the local university, Tampere University, and the Faculty of Education and Culture. And I'm working as in the field of media education as a university lecturer. And we will today talk a little bit about the critical project. And we will have two presentations. Actually, first I will take some introduction, but then we have Laura Kanniainen. Please, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Laura Kanniainen, and I work as a postdoctoral research fellow in the same faculty with Reija and in the same critical project.
Yeah, so we will introduce the project with a few minutes, and then Laura will give some presentation about the research that she has been doing. And there are new findings, I think, and also I will present something about the research that I have been doing, also kind of new findings. But I try now share the screen so we can see our slides. Yes. So here it goes. I hope this is the right one. Yes, so the critical, this is the fourth year. So actually we have been working 3 years and we will still have 3 years ahead. And the research is about children and adolescents' critical reading skills, and something about the research first. So here is the main things that what we are doing. As I mentioned already, we investigate the students' critical reading skills and also the factors that support those reading skills. So this is the research part of the project. Research is needed in order that we know what skills young people and children have and what we need to do when we have some kind of information and knowledge about that. And based on that, we then develop, based on the research, we develop some educational practices and also digital learning materials. I have some examples here as well. And this is all for critical reading education. And of course, teacher education is important part of our project in a way as well. And of course, the schools. And what we then need to do is that we need, of course, give information about our projects to the policy level, so that there could be some recommendation, for example, for the policymakers what to do. We also have published one policy brief so far. This is only in Finnish at the moment, but it will be in English. So if you go in our website, I hope in autumn time, I hope this will be also in English. So this is a policy brief for of course, for the Finnish policymakers. So about the research, here are some research questions what we are looking at the moment. How well can students of different ages evaluate the credibility of online text? So the credibility of the online text is a really important issue for us, and we are speaking quite a lot about critical reading, but also critical literacy, and especially in the context of internet and social media and so on. Then we research what kinds of home literacy practices support critical reading skills, and that's one part of the research. How can gamification support critical reading skills? how are motivational factors associated with critical online reading skills, and then how well can students evaluate misleading graphics and diagrams. So this is also part of the research. And here you can see our website and you can find more information if you are interested in. So here are some examples of the practices or what we have published already. The Media Watch is the game about spotting misleading graphics. Actually, it's won 1 award a couple of months ago, one of the best educational game. Then we have some other materials as well in our website, credibility evaluation cards for primary school students, and a tool to support the critical evaluation of online texts. But there will be more, and these are in English. There are more in Finnish as well. Yes, I think that was the last slide from this really short representation. I just noticed that there was some slides missing. I don't know why I didn't add them here, but this is funded by the strategic, what it is, name is
Strategic Research Council.
Strategic Research Council. They just changed the name, so that's why it's difficult. And this is quite actually big project. We have here 4 universities, and this is led by the Tampere University and Professor Christian Kiili from our faculty. And so there is also research that has been done in Oulu University, in University of Jyväskylä and Helsinki University. But this is the whole consortium that we have. But now I will give floor to Laura. Let's see, I need to change the other slides here. No, that was wrong one. Why does it not change? Do I need to do?
Stop sharing.
Yeah, I did it, but I see here wrong slides.
Ah.
Oh, God. Let me see. I stop that one and open another one. Perhaps it works better. Laura's slides.
Yes.
Yeah, but still here is the wrong one. I don't understand this.
Yeah, we cannot see the my slides.
Yeah, in my screen is a different slide.
No, it's good.
No, it's good.
Yes.
No, it's okay.
Now it's correct here and here. Yeah.
Yes, good.
Good. It's easier for me to talk if I also see my presentation. Doesn't have to look there. So, yeah, today I'm going to talk about primary and secondary students as critical online readers, and yeah, here's also the address to our webpage. Most of the materials are now in Finnish, but we add materials also in English
In the future.
In the future, and when we get something ready. So so today I will talk about the data collection that we conducted in semester 2021-2022 with my colleagues. So here you can see Riikka Anttonen, Elina Hämäläinen, and Karita Kiili. And so what we have been studying. So I'm talking today about the aspects that affect the credibility of online texts, and So when we talk about students doing credibility evaluations on the internet, students, when they are reading, for example, different kind of online texts, they need to identify the author and also evaluate if the author is an expert of a certain topic or issue, like, for instance, if the author is an expert in health effects of vitamins that we used in our research design. And also, when students are reading on the internet, they need to evaluate the author's benevolence. So what kinds of motives this author has when he or she has published a certain text or a video or so on. And also the third one is the venues publication practices. So where the author has published a certain text, if we compare, for example, the university webpage, there's a, like everybody are not allowed to publish, for instance, at the university's webpage, but then we have different kinds of blog platforms. So the publication practices vary. And then the last one is the quality of the evidence. So when the author is presenting some claims, he or she might justify those claims. So using some kind of evidence, own experience, or in the field of research results, or something like that. And in this certain study, we have collected students' ratings in these three: so author expertise, author benevolence, and the quality of the evidence. And we collected students' credibility evaluation with a web-based task in the critical online reading research environment Corre. And in this web-based task, students read 4 different online texts about the health effects of vitamins. And yes, so altogether we had 728 students, and half of them were girls and half of them boys. And we collected data from 4 different grade levels. So we have 4th graders, 6th graders, 8th graders, and also vocational and general upper secondary school students. And we collected the data from 42 classrooms representing 7 comprehensive schools and 12 classrooms that represented an educational consortium of the vocational and upper secondary school level. So this was really interesting research design, that we have different age of students, and then we used the same task. So the 4th graders were reading the same text than those upper secondary school students. And most of these students' home language was Finnish, or they spoke Finnish and some other language at school. So all the students had such a good language level that they were able to study in the mainstream education, following our national curriculums. And yeah, here you can see those 4 different texts, and these texts were researcher designed, and that allowed us to manipulate the source trustworthiness and the accuracy of the main claim, and also the quality of the evidence. So 2 of the online texts were more credible, so those ones with the gray color, so science newspaper article and the popular science texts. And 2 of those texts were less credible. So we have there a personal blog text where an ice hockey junior is informing his readers concerning those vitamins, and then we have commercial text. And this was the four texts that all those students read. And then when the students were reading, they read one text at a time. And first they needed to identify the author of the text and the main claim and the evidence. And they also evaluated each text in the terms of those evaluation items, so author's expertise and benevolence and the quality of the evidence. So each 4 texts and those 3 evaluation ratings. And in this research environment, we used Fixer's avatar student called Max. And when students were asked to identify the author, and they selected or choose their answer from 3 different options, after the selection, Max always told them that if they were correct or not. So if you see the first one, so who is the author of the text, and yeah, the student has picked the name of the blogger, and then we have there the name of the blog platform, and then the name of the photographer who has taken this photo. So because we wanted to first see that everybody knows whose experience they are evaluating. So if the student answered that, for example, the photographer, Max corrected that the author is the Mikko Vasio, who is the blogger, so that everybody evaluate the experience of the right author. So we wanted to make sure after each question. And yeah, there's, for example, in the second example, what is the main claim of the text, and if the student has selected the wrong one, then the Max corrects after that didn't go quite right, the main claim is, and gives the right answer, so that every students are evaluating the right options. And if we look at students' author identification, we can see that the author identification of the personal blog text was the most difficult one for all the students. So we think that students are more familiar with the popular science texts. Maybe these are more similar with the school materials. And then, for example, with the blog text, students mix the blog platform and the actual blogger. So it was difficult to them to recognize, but then again, it's important information to teachers that it's actually easy to teach that if you are reading online text in these kind of platforms where you can find the name of the author. And we can see that especially 4th graders were having more difficulties, and it's good to know that these skills are, it seems that these skills are developing during the school path. And here are some examples of the evaluation items. So students were asked to evaluate these 3 aspects. And we used the scale from 1 to 6 and this is the example of the science text. And with this, we noticed that if you look at this figure, we can see that less credible texts were much more difficult at in all grade levels. So already fourth graders managed quite okay with the science newspaper article and also with the popular science text. But then the personal blog text and the commercial text, when the students they needed to question the credibility of these two texts, it was more difficult than the confirming the credibility. So even though we can see some development during from one grade level to another, still in upper secondary school level, students are still having some difficulties. So that's also important information to teachers and in the schools, that we usually offer students credible text because we want that students are reading relevant texts, but we also should offer unrelevant and uncredible text to teach how to question the trustworthiness of these kind of information. So students' ability to evaluate the credibility of online texts, especially the confirmation of the credibility, does not vary much. But however, students' ability to question the credibility seems to improve a little bit. But what we are doing next is to investigate if we can find some kind of online reading profile. So we'll use latent profile analysis to see what kind of reader groups we can find from our data. For instance, it seems that there are students who question all the texts. They don't trust any of these texts. So maybe they are overly critical. And then it seems that there are also a group of students who trust each of these texts. So we think that they may need a little bit different kind of instructions and support to achieve that, how would I say it, like more analytical level of online reading. So what kind of skills we could teach at schools to support students' ability, because sometimes there may be good blogs that researchers are reporting research results, so we cannot say that all blog texts are uncredible or all newspaper texts are good. So we need to teach these kind of skills, and we are also planning a feedback module to this a critical online reading environment, because in this specific data collection, we offered students these kind of feedbacks from Max after the data collection. So we gave these on paper to teachers, but now we are planning this feedback module in the environment so that it could give adaptive feedback already during the task. So this is the some ideas how we are going to continue. But now I just will thank, and maybe if now somebody has some questions, we can take shortly, and then Reijo will continue of our another study.
Thank you, Laura. We can now change places, and meanwhile I change slides. You can ask questions, and if you have something online, please let us know.
No, there are no questions at the moment.
I find it super interesting and timely because we're questioning now there's this with this decolonized knowledge movement and questioning like whose knowledge has been valued so far and problems with science, and I like how you have this balanced approach, also critical to, but and then giving some feedback. So it's kind of like it's students are doing they're providing information for your research, but at the same time they're learning something with these tests that you've done, right?
Yeah, that's at least our goal. That they could also learn during the task, that we get data, but they also have an opportunity to learn, and we offer feedback to students, but also to teachers, so that we are all not only collecting data, but it's like interaction with the schools.
Yeah. I was thinking how it can be different with in different contexts. For example, in some countries there's no money, governments don't have money to analyze the digital divide. For example, who has access to, and how are people using technology? So the market is doing, because there's a market interest. So the data that you have is from the telecom companies or one of these platforms that then sell you how your brand is doing online. They do all this amount of users that you have, different social media and so on. So also sometimes the market is commercial source, the only source. And then personal stories, how, for example, with all the research with HIV and scientific movement not funding, stigmatizing and not funding research on this topic, and then the scientific efforts at the time were mostly from citizens with HIV testing and with their own crowdsourcing the resources, and that could be like personal stories or personal blog posts. So I like that you have a balanced view, that it's not just science, and how that can be also have in mind that this is a mindset from Finland, and how that can vary in different contexts because of historical issues, the topic, the resources, so many things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want to answer? That was no question.
Yeah, no,
but these are really interesting ideas. Yeah.
Like, because for example, with the last slide, having the higher education, the vocational ones, they kind of trusted all, was more kind of distributed the trust within media in the last slide compared to the fourth graders with privileged a bit more science. So how do you read that result?
Vocational is not higher education. Or is
vocational?
Yeah, vocational is like in after 9th grade in Finland, students can choose if they want to go high school or vocational school level. So, but we wanted to take the whole age group to this study.
Yes, good. Thanks. So perhaps I will then share my slides and continue, because now we will continue to the upper secondary education. And this is research that I have been done with Karita Kiili, who is one of the co-leader of the project. And this is still work that we are continuing at the moment. But anyway, let's start. So actually, yeah, the topic here is that we were interested to find out how adolescents, upper secondary school students read online text, and especially on multimodal text, and evaluate the credibility of this multimodal text. And we choose Instagram posts as multimodal texts. And the participants were 15 upper secondary school students. All of them were quite good at school, as you'd see from the chart. Of this is usually the problem, that we get only the good students for the research. But anyway, they are, as you see also, they are quite, they use Instagram quite much, as it is if we think this age group. So what we have actually 10 different Instagram posts as kind of stimulates. They were authentic Instagram posts, not manipulated like in your research. So we had two themes. One was the eating meat, and the other one was digital well-being. And we also selected some different sources, different authors. As you see from this slides, there were some who were experts. For example, in a way, some were organizations, there were some pseudonyms, bloggers, celebrities, and so on. So different kind of sources. That's the question of the source and author that was also in Laura's presentation. And then there was different image types as well. And if you look at, for example, then the number of the posts and number of the followers, there's also quite big differences. But here are two examples. These were by the permission of these persons published here, and also we will use these in our papers. There's no time to read the content, of course, and what they say in the posts, but this gives a little bit of a glimpse of what kind of posts they are. Of course, I think that you all know what is Instagram, so it's not necessary to explain it. But it is image-centered and multimodal media in a way that there is an image that you first see usually, and then there is a written text when they tell something about the issue. So the first one here is about eating meat. There is a person that is a philosopher and writes from her own experiences why she decided not to eat meat anymore. And then there is another one, post number 6 here is about digital well-being. And this is published by a library. It's the organization, of course. And it includes some information and facts about the digital well-being and using the young people and their use of the internet and mobile phones. So of course, this is multimodal in a way that the image could include, of course, the written text. And also, as you see, perhaps not in these examples, but then where there is a written text, there could be also some visual images, for example, emoji. So method was that we used so-called think aloud protocol. It was done so that the participants saw all these 10 posts, and when they start to think about those posts' credibility, they had to say it aloud, or they needed to think aloud and say everything aloud what they were thinking about these posts. Then we had, of course, some starting points for the research, and we used so-called bidirectional model of evaluation strategies, and that's is the strategy that gives some examples how we usually actually read or evaluate the credibility of different texts. So we use usually 2 different epistemic strategies. First one is information validity and quality judgments, and other one is source trustworthiness judgments. And this is a bidirectional in a way that these belong in a way together. And the idea is that there is a kind of first evaluation strategy that is this information validity and quality judgments. And it includes, for example, the knowledge-based validation. That means that we always use kind of prior knowledge when we validate the information. We always have some kind of knowledge already, and based on that knowledge, we validate the information. Then there is a discourse-based evaluation. That means that we, for example, look at the argument's quality and try to find out, is the argument good or is it bad, and how can we evaluate the argument. And then the corroboration, that is that we can find the information from different sources and look at how these information that we find, which of these is the best, perhaps the best information or the valid information. Now, the second hand strategy is the sourcing, and that's looking at the author or the source, the validity of the source, or the truth, what word you used? It was the
trustworthiness.
Yes, trustworthiness. How trustworthy is the source or the author? So this is the process that we usually use when we do this kind of evaluation practices. And other starting point was the social semiotics. And of course, when we are talking about Instagram, it's the multimodal, as I mentioned. We also need to look at the images. We need to look at different kind of other visual information that we can see. For example, emoji. And there are, of course, something that we can look, for example, how the images represent the reality, and look at is it true or false. We can look at different bandwagon quiz, and it means that we can, for example, look at how many followers there are, how many are following the author, or some other views that give some information about the credibility as well. And then, of course, when it comes to sourcing, people can look at the visual cues of the author, and actually this is also what happens. Oh, 5 minutes. So we used a different kind of, we call this episodes. We coded the whole data for episodes. It means that the students talk about focusing on specific kind of issues, for example, to the caption, to the images, or to the profile of the posts. And based on that, we made some look at these episodes. So if I go now to the what we did found was that mostly the students talked about the caption, and the second one was the profile. And the important part here is that image comes after that. So even though the Instagram is the image centered, the students didn't talk much about the image. And that's give also us some information that, okay, there has to be some kind of lack that this is something that has not perhaps taught at school, because they didn't know how to talk about the images so much. And the important issue here is if you look at how much they talked about the argumentation, it has the highest number here. Another one is the evaluation of the source's intention. For example, is the person selling something, or is there some kind of what is some kind of influence in marketing or something like that. But if we look at then the evaluation of the visuals and images, it's not in so high a level. And this also gives us some information that, okay, there has to be something that students can evaluate the written text, but they do not evaluate the images as much. And perhaps there is something, if we go to the school and need some information that we have to bring to the teacher, is that we need to focus the teaching more on visual images. So the last point here is, as I said already, that okay, the adolescents pay attention to every aspect of the Instagram posts, and they evaluate the credibility, but they emphasize especially the caption and the profile. And the other one is that, well, the visual-based evaluation need to pay more account especially the theories of evaluation strategies, because there is a lack of that. And then students use kind of non-reliable strategies that they do not understand images so well. And we call this visceral heuristics. And it's a kind of subjective reactions to the visuals. And they are not so reliable strategies as those strategies that they use when they read written texts. But time is running, so we have 5 minutes. This was all for my part. There will be some publications. It could be a long time from now on when we will publish those, but anyway, there will be something. But now it's time for this presentation, and we are open for discussions and comments. There are nobody online at the moment. So is there anybody here who wants to ask something?
Have you discussed your results with participants?
Pardon?
Have you discussed the results with schools, with students?
No.
Adolescents in general?
Yeah, actually, they asked that when this is ready, and do they get any information? And I said, well, this takes quite a long time, so they are not at the school anymore. It's very difficult to find the persons. The data was collected last year. There were many problems. They were difficult to find participants, and also, well, we know this situation. That was actually also the teachers were out of schools some of the weeks, so that was also the problem. But anyway, difficult to find participants.
Research, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that this time, like COVID-19, and then the Ukrainian war, and then this school teacher strikes.
Yeah.
So teachers had a really rough year last year also here. So
longer term results would also be very interesting. So I'm just thinking that if it could be somehow integrated into the kind of lesson plans as part of a critical thinking, like whatever would be the most suitable, the Manhattan or.
Yeah, that's actually, of course, one aim of the whole project, that we will bring something to the teachers and schools, and hopefully also to the curricula, because now the last curricula was published 11 years ago. So usually the time they publish it in every 10 years. So now I think they are preparing to do the new one. So we also, of course, want to have some influence to the curricula.
Well, it's a good time for it. I mean, cybersecurity, media literacy.
That's right.
Cybersecurity thinking.
Yes, that's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
1 minute.
I was asked yesterday in a session about disinformation with people from Latin America. They were saying, oh, in the Nordics, they're really good with media literacy, particularly in Finland. And I know that the topic is in curriculum and also in the UK compared to other countries where media literacy, it was not a topic until the digital era, kind of. So how do you think that, do you have a sense that people are better at critical skills or media literacy?
Well, actually, I think the fact is that we really don't know, because there is no research that has been focused on skills or competencies. We acknowledge or the understanding that Finland is in the top when it comes to media literacy is that because there is trust to the media and there is freedom of speech and things like that. But there is no research on facts of the digital literacy skills. And that's something it's difficult to know what the reality really is. But anyway, there is, I think there is one research project in Nordic countries that they will do some kind of research focusing on skills, but let's see what will happen.
We run action research here with around 800 young people a year in Finland, aged between 11 and 14. It's really interesting that the Finns are way above other Scandinavian countries, according to young people. When we ask them, how do you know if something's true? Almost 80% check their facts and know how to cross-check and the importance of cross-checking, although there still is about 5%, about 15% who believe if it's shown on television, it's going to be true. Does this sort of fit in with the way you're looking at it and your understanding from working with young people?
What age are the
11 to 14.
Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I think that if we continue to our data analysis to see what kind of critical reader profiles we are having, I think we confront this issue that there are students who trust everything, and they think that if somebody has written an online text to internet, he or she has to know something about issue, and they don't think about the motives why the author, for example, have published something. So,
and do they have a general belief that what's on in French television now, there is 15, I think every 15 days, a short session dedicated to a recent fake news that was on television. They show figures from Twitter, they show images, and they show how it was manipulated. Do you have anything like that on television?
Actually, we have been thinking that young people do not watch television anymore. So that's the news for us that they are really doing it. But of course, we have a trust to the media and, for example, television news. And that trust is really in a high level. And I think it's also when it comes to children and young people, they trust on what they see on news. But I think that we need to stop, and it's the next session will start quite soon. Thank you all, and thank you, and Esa, who has just come online.